every field, wherever there is a product, wherever there is a process. But we will restrict our discussion for the pharmaceuticals, rather the drug products. Let me explain you the concept of drug product and the drug delivery system. The drug delivery system is a synonymous thing to the dosage form which are optimized. The drug products which are optimized are the drug delivery systems. If we recollect the earlier pharmacy practice days, we know that most of the drugs are available in the form of crystalline or amorphous powder, and therefore those were dispensed in a form of powder wrapped in a paper. But nowadays that practice is virtually non-existent. In today's commercial market of the pharmaceutical, the things are available only in the form of the drug product. So no drug is dispensed or given to the patient in its purest form, but it is always along with some excipient to form a proper drug product. And it is needless to say for me, because you are postgraduate students, that the drug products may not exactly and totally represent the chemical characteristics in whole for the drug molecule. It means some of the chemical properties stands slightly modified, and even the pharmacokinetic profiles of the pure drug molecule may not exactly overlap with it. It means that the performance of a drug is largely dependent on the performance of the drug product. So in nutshell, we can say that all drugs are presented to patient as a drug products, and the performance of most of the drugs is greatly dependent and affected by the method of its presentation. It means we have the different options to present the drug, and there are some prerequisites while taking the decision in what form the drug should be presented. As we know that drugs are not given for any fashion or any convenience without requirement, but it is given with some therapeutic objective. So whenever there is a therapeutic objective, we have got the 4 targets in our mind: that the drug must reach to the site of action, it should elevate the action by reaching at the site of action by the shortest possible route from the site of administration. From site of administration to the site of action, from the site of action it will reach to the receptor, and after its role is over, obviously we expect that the drug molecule should be eliminated from the body as early as possible without giving effect on other parts of the body, other systems into the body. And with this prerequisites, we take the decision on the basis of certain basic parameters. We can recollect it here. So here, these are the few fields that I would like to bring to your notice, that all this optimization where the pharmacy career is related is a drug product dosage form, and the cosmetics, perfumery and the personal products, nutraceutical, food products. These are our own areas where optimization would be largely required. In addition to that, there are some allied industries, paint industry, print industry. Because we are concerned with the coating and various types of the coating, so this area is also very near to it, and the agriculture, textile, and the list is almost virtually unending. Let us come to our original point. What are the factors affecting the various decisions regarding the presentation of the drug in different drug product or dosage form. Obviously, first is the portal of the drug entry into the body. It means the site of administration. It means the route of administration. This is the first decision you have to take when you think about a drug to be presented in the form of the drug product. Then secondly, the constraint, the physical form of the drug product that you expect, depending on the type of the patient, whether he is a geriatric, pediatric or the adult patient. Accordingly, we can change the physical form. Then once the physical form is decided, then the next question arises regarding the formulation. It's design, product design. And once the formulation is set up, then we think about the mass production, large scale production. And this large scale production means the manufacturing optimization, the process optimization. But the story doesn't end there. The finished product may have various physico-chemical properties that would affect the performance of the product as whole and the performance of the drug molecule too. And after this, since it is a mass production, large scale production, we have the quality control. In the quality control, again, there is optimization. Then there is a maintenance cycle of each of the equipment, each of the process, and there comes the optimization, the optimum time for the perfect working of the machinery and its maintenance. There again, the question of maintenance and the optimization comes. And after this, there are some control systems. Nowadays, most of the things are automized. So the control is required. That is also subject of optimization. So once the things went from the hands of the pharmacist to the mass producer, the concept of the quality become very important parameter. Earlier, it was a person who was showing his trustworthiness that he is a good pharmacist, he is giving a perfect dispense product. But once it become a mass production subject, obviously the quality things become challengeable because it was not made for a particular person who was known to us. The things were produced for the people who are unknown. So obviously in their mind, the question of quality would be there. And there is a globalized distribution of the product. Therefore, the question of quality become on the important subject on the platform, on the surface. Initially, it was the compendious standards. Compendious standards means Indian Pharmacopoeia, US Pharmacopoeia, British Pharmacopoeia. These came at the forefront because the government took the responsibility of the quality, because health is a subject matter as a responsibility of the government. So initially they put these three requirements: potency, identity, and purity. Identity means what is written on the label should be there in the container. Potency, what are the amount is specified on the label should be there into the container. Purity, there should be a limit for the non-drug excipient. It should not happen that the 1 mg is the active ingredient and 500 milligram is the excipient, 499. So there should be the limit on the non-drug excipient. And this particular quality concept continued from maybe from 1920 to say up to 50s. These three parameters were adequate and sufficient to fulfill the requirement. But as the science of the pharmaceutics or the pharmaceutical sciences expanded further, new requirement for the test. Because initially there were very few dosage form, therefore these three parameters, identity, purity, potency, were adequate and sufficient to define and establish the quality standards. But later on, people thought that there are two types of the tablet available. One is not disintegrating fast, it is not dissolving properly, no proper dissolution. So they included the physical test. This physical test, hardness, friability, dissolution, become the important parameter in the quality of the product, say physical test. Then people's expectation increase, maybe related with the elegance. Say, okay, the suspension contains the amount defined, but it is not giving a proper pouring from the bottle, or there is a formation of the cake, there is a separation of the phases, even though physically it is changed, chemically it is unchanged. So the elegance become additional parameter. Then the physical changes into the drug product were considered as important parameter. And in this way, the concept of quality is got slightly expanded. And even the reporting regarding the interaction between the drug and excipient, drug and the container, excipient and the container, closure and the vehicle, and in this way the interaction between various principal components involved into the drug product became the concern, because they were not earlier known, because the number of excipients were limited and their inertness was well established. But as more and more excipient, more and more material for the closures container in the form of polymers came into the use, this interaction become slightly very relevant and very prominent. And then after this, there was a big war, particularly between the pioneer and the people who were copying. The pioneer means the discoverer always had a claim that his product is always superior, and it is his liberty to put the price, cost of his own choice. And the concept of the generic market started coming and developing after the patent expiry. And there came the concept of bioavailability as a quality concept. And then again, obviously, each of these things is related with the optimization. There is some optimum value defined in the quality compendia. Further expanded the concept of quality. Earlier, there were only three things: identity, purity, potency, right? Now, those three things have got replaced by another three terms. Now, we can say safety, reliability, and the stability. The safety aspect is a very broad term. It's related with the pre-formulation. So the concept and the subject, rather a very big science as a pre-formulation has come up. The pre-formulation of the excipient, pre-formulation of the drug, not essentially restricted with the physicochemical properties, but even the pharmacokinetic characterization, effect of the excipient on the pharmacokinetics of the drug molecule. And in this way, this related with the safety as well as reliability. Pharmacokinetics related with the reliability, earlier thing physicochemical related with the safety. And then the dosage form design, the stability aspects came. Stability is a very wide term, very broad term. Stability against water, hydrolytic degradation. Stability against oxygen, oxidative degradation. Stability against light, stability against temperature, stability against microbes, and affecting overall bioavailability and the performance. So these three things, safety, reliability, and stability, become the three important pillars of the quality, which included all those things related with the manufacturing, right from the raw material, then the concept of in-process quality control, and then quality assurance came. But everything covered under these three pillars, namely safety, reliability, and stability. So here we can see in this diagram that these three pillars, safety, reliability, and efficacy, are having the arrows, having two-headed arrows. It means efficacy and safety are two-way process. If one is increased, another may decrease, and so on. In this, these are the two-headed arrows. It means it's a quality circle, and one has to maintain a balance between these three together. It should not happen that the efficacy is at the cost of the safety or reliability at the cost of the efficacy. You have to put a proper balance. So you have to find the weightage. Say, for example, we can say here, simple example of a drug product in the form of tablet. We are aware of this. If there is a complaint during the transport that the tablets are breaking, then we feel that there is a change into the friability. So we should try to decrease the friability. So we increase the hardness. For increasing the hardness, we put some binder, or we increase the compression pressure. And because of that, it affects the performance. That is, dissolution rate is decreased, absorption rate is decreased, and thereby the bioavailability is decreased. This thing has happened by changing the small parameter of the friability. And in this way, the optimization has got an option. See, efficacy, safety, reliability on one side, then elegance and formulation on other side. There is a weightage. You have to find the golden balance between them. Thus, one has to optimize the safety and effectiveness as an equally weighted primary objective. The safety and effectiveness should be taken as a primary responsibility or the primary parameters. Safety and efficacy, effectiveness, these are the primary. This should not be compromised with other elegance factors. So for the drugs having a very high therapeutic index, it means the drug molecules which are very safe, like paracetamol, there the safety is not a major issue, effectiveness is not a major issue. In that case, you can concentrate more on the elegance. Maximizing safety is not a concern in many of the cases, particularly the OTC drugs. Then there comes the ideal attributes of our drug delivery systems. This is important because unless we know what is an ideal, we cannot define the optimum values. So there must be some attributes responsible for the ideal drug products. Say, for example, I have enlisted here some of them. It should be capable of controlled delivery rate, meaning thereby simply dumping the drug at the site of the administration does not mean that you have administered the drug. It has to have a controlled delivery system. Even though it is an ordinary conventional dosage form, there is a predetermined rate of the release from the dosage. It's not essentially the NDDS and modern drug delivery system which are only having the attribute of the rate. No, even a conventional dosage form has got some well-defined slot of the delivery rate. Then it should be capable to accommodate the pharmacokinetics. Capable to accommodate the pharmacokinetics, it means that we know that it has got some definite rate of dissolution. It is an inherent property of that molecule. So that particular solubility characteristics, its pH characteristics, and its polarity, partitioning, these physicochemical parameters which are affecting the rate of absorption and the kinetics. So that drug product, DDS, should be capable to accommodate the constraint of the drug molecules. It should be capable to give the constant and controlled delivery. Means it should be independent of the amount of the drug left at the site of the administration. It means it should be concentration independent. It should be ideally the zero order release from the dosage form, even though it is a conventional one. And it should not be affected by the physical posture of the patient and the internal posture of the system. Say, for example, his gastric emptying or the motility, presence or absence of the food, presence or absence of the enzyme, and these factors which are generally should not restrict the movement of the patient. The normal routine of the patient should not be affected. Otherwise, while giving the drug or the dosage form, a list of the things are, and he should not do this, he should not eat this. This thing should be avoided. That is why it should not be sensitive to the normal movement, normal physiology of the person. Then it should be predictable on the physicochemical principle, is very obvious, capable of high order of the drug dispensation. Then stability is obvious. Then should add the little mass to the dosage form. It means the limit of the non-drug excipient. Then it should be applicable to the wide range. Then why optimization? Is it an optional thing? No, it is not optional thing nowadays. Before you submit the application for the approval, they make inspection of your provisions, facilities, which is known as pre-approval inspection. It is not. In earlier days, the approval was given first, then the inspection was conducted. Now the things have changed. There is a provision known as a pre-approval inspection. Before they grant the approval, they will inspect the facilities. They will inspect and check the formulation, why this additives is there, why it is at this concentration, why the weight of the tablet is this much, and each and everything you have to define through your master formula record and the batch formula record. So you have to justify your formulation, you have to justify your process, why you are heating up to 60, why not 50. You have to defend it. Why you are putting this particular preservative or antimicrobial agent to this concentration. So it means that it is not an optional thing. You cannot escape. Optimization is a mandatory thing, it's a regulatory thing. So the regulatory need. There is a review before the approval is given. Here, the important point here, we must understand why it has been made regulatory or the mandatory. Optimization technique provides in-depth understanding to explore and further define the formulation and the process. So it is also in the benefit of the manufacturer. If he knows each and every detail, probably his expansion and his review, all those things will be well within his control. And optimization is not at all a screening technique. It's not a screening technique. The dictionary meaning to optimize means to make as perfect as possible. Optimize means to make as effective as possible. To optimize means to make as functional as possible. In general, in few words, optimize is to make as perfect, effective, functional as possible. There is a term as possible. As possible means what? Perfect by whose definition? For what characteristics? Under what condition? For me, as possible would be different thing. For another person, as possible would be different thing. So it's a qualitative thing. That is why earlier in books of the pharmaceutics, you might have seen at some places, it is an art. Coating is an art. Nowadays it is not art. Earlier, certain things were qualitatively expressed, therefore it was called as the art. No, now everything is science. Nowadays, everything is science because this particular term as possible has been defined, has been expressed in numbers. So perfect by whose definition and for what characteristics, under what conditions? That's the thing we have to understand. But earlier optimization was not done, is not a reality. Earlier also optimization was done, but that optimization was done by trial and error method. Trial and error method, what does it mean? A series of the logical steps carefully controlling the variables and changing one variable at a time till satisfactory system is produced. So the gross variables are carefully understood, changing one variable at a time, making small change into it, and then series of such experiments are done. Each experiment is performed for sufficient length of time. It means if the experimenter is given adequate resources, sufficient time and help, a time will come, he will come with a perfect. He will come with the perfect product, but of his own definition. We may not know whether the best produce is near to the optimum value or not. The experimenter will always say the last product he prepared is the best one. It means that if he further proceed, he may have another best product. So this has to be established which is the last product which has got an optimum value. So this is the try and error method. So here I recollect the example of the calamine lotion that we perform. So the flocculation kinetics we study, so we go on adding drop by drop the flocculating agent till we get the sedimentation volume is equal to 1, isn't it? So it means the things are well defined. When it will reach to 1, you have to stop further experimentation, isn't it? But in the absence of the flocculating kinetics, can you imagine the way to think which is the better suspension? Very difficult. So in our pharmaceutical field, we follow these two golden principles while deciding the things regarding the formulation and the processes. These two golden rules we should never forget, because in the industry you may have thousands of the chemicals and options available. It doesn't mean that you should put more and more quantity, number as well as the quantity. First golden rule, minimum and absolutely necessary ingredient in the formulation should be used. Two things, minimum absolutely necessary ingredient. Minimum with respect to the quantity, minimum with respect to the numbers. So absolutely necessary quantity as well as number should be justified, because it is putting a burden on the patient, it is putting the burden on the process, putting a burden on the finance. This first golden rule we should never forget. Minimum and absolutely necessary ingredient in terms of the number, in terms of the quantity, should be included into the formulation. Doesn't matter that it is a one ingredient just put into the water. If it is giving the stable system, okay. Then minimum number of the steps, minimum number of the unit operations. If the unit operations are increasing, then obviously there is a financial burden. There is a burden of the labor, burden of the people, isn't it? More the unit operation, more will be the staff required, more will be the energy consumption, more will be the quality parameters at each and every step. So minimum and absolutely necessary steps, minimum and smallest number of the equipment. These are the two golden rules we should never forget while thinking about the optimization. Here I recollect the example of the tablet. Why tablet? Because even today, most of the drugs are preferred to be placed into the market in the form of tablet, even though it is the oldest dosage form, right? So when a drug molecule is given, suppose you are a formulation chemist, you are a product development officer, the person who is not from the pharmacy, a promoter, will give you, this is the drug molecule duly approved by FDA, US FDA, Indian FDA. And please tell me that how can I do the tablet of this? Just a simple question that he will put to you. So first you have to put in your mind the two golden rules. What you will do? First, you will try to study the flowability and compressibility of the ingredient. If it is directly compressible, you think first that let us compress the pure ingredient as whole with a small quantity of the glycant and the lubricant, that's all. No additives, no excipient. But it would require, dose should be sufficient, that should fill the cavity of the dye. So the active ingredient you have to evaluate for its fluidity, compressibility. If it is directly compressible and if the dose is sufficient, no excipient would be required, go for direct compression. Finish, direct compression, no excipient. So that will save a lot of optimization problem. But if it is not directly compressible, then again recollect the golden rule. No, I want to put a minimum ingredient. Then what you will do? You will try to use the compression vehicle like DCP, dicalcium phosphate, and many other directly compressible vehicles are available into the market, which are the process excipient. Those are the process excipient. Those are made compressible by suitable treatment. You put the drug in it to the tune of 25%, the compression vehicle will show its role, right? So second option, just one ingredient, compression vehicle. Up to 25%, it can accommodate the drug. So accordingly, you can change the size of the tablet and see that you will put only one ingredient apart from glycant and lubricant. So minimum ingredient. Things will be again directly compressible. But if you find that it is not possible, then you have the option of granulation. Up to this, we have not thought of granulation. Then in the granulation, you think first about the dry granulation because the number of unit processes are minimum. You try to prepare the slugs, then the big granules, then the small granules. Try to avoid the liquids because liquid mixing is very difficult thing. So dry, direct compression, then dry compression. Then finally you go for the moist granulation. And here obviously some hints we have to understand. The moment you say it is a moist granulation, the product cost will increase enormously. Starts with size reduction, mixing of all the excipient, dry mixing, moistening, then preparing the wet mass, converting into bigger granules through screening, dry the big granules, break the big granules, sizing, then again second mixing, and finally compression. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8-unit operations. At every step, there is a chance, there is a possibility and probability of deviation and variation. So reproducibility would be directly affected by any of the things. So that golden rule and the optimization goes hand in hand. So every step and each concentration is important if it is a multiple. Then optimization and selection of the binder can be very crucial operation. We know that if the granules are hard, DT will be affected, dissolution would be affected, bioavailability would be affected. Less friability. If the binder is reduced, then we have the problem of friability, capping, and so many things. So multiple ingredient, multiple operations, so multiple factors. So these are the ingredients to be optimized. Then there is a process optimization. Drying, at what temperature, at what humidity. Drying doesn't mean that you have to make it as a bone dry, 0% of the moisture. You have to keep at least 50 to 60% of the moisture. But whether that moisture should be present at the surface or at the core, that has to be again evaluated. So basic knowledge of that subject is very much necessary to know what should be the ideal characteristics. Say, for example, I have taken the case of fluidity and compressibility. Then you should have the Carr's index, Hausner index, angle of repose, and the some thumb rule should be known. Every time you have no option to see the books. Say, for example, the angle of repose should be around 25. The size should be around 100 micrometer. Critical moisture should not be more than 40. These thumb rules and the basic core knowledge should be available when you are going for the optimization. Every time you cannot go for the book and refer it, what should be the optimum, what should be, this thumb rule should be known to you. So let us see what types of the problems we have to optimize. From our 8th standard, we know that there are two types of the problems. One is the constrained, unconstrained. Unconstrained means, say for example, if you say unconstrained. Unconstrained means, say for example, in terms of the tablet, if we say, make the hardest possible tablet. Make the hardest possible tablet. The unconstrained. Constrained means, make a hardest tablet, but it should disintegrate within 3 minutes. It should have the hardness of 8 to 10 kg. So that is a constraint. So in pharmaceutical formulation, the unconstrained problems are not existing. Those are non-existing. We think about the restricted problems, constraint. Right? So these are the engineering problem. This is the pharmaceutical. So we are more concerned with the constraint. We have got certain limitations, upper limit and lower limit. When we say that there is a constraint type of the problems, then immediate the next thought come to your mind, the variables, dependent variable and independent variable. Independent variable means the things that you can operate by your own choice. Say for example, you can change the concentration of any of the ingredient as per your own will. You can change the machinery Say for example, its force of compression, time of mixing, temperature, humidity. These are the things under your control. These are called independent variables, right? These are the independent variables. It is the thing which is under your control. But when you make a change into these independent variables, there comes the changes which are dependent, which are called as dependent. Say for example, as we mentioned earlier, concentration of the binder is an independent variable. It is affecting hardness, friability, resolution, bioavailability. These are the dependent variable. It is not in your control. So by changing the independent variable, you try to get the optimum value of the dependent variable, right? It is not necessary that when you change one independent variable, there will be change into one dependent variable. No, there can be more than one response by one change of the independent variable. See here, dependent variables, independent variables. These are various combinations. One independent variable is change, you will get two or more responses, right? In another case, you can change two independent variables, but it is causing effect on one single response. So slowly we are going toward the quantitative aspects of the optimization. So dependent variable and independent variable is the crux of the optimization. You have to understand which are the independent variables. These are the parameters under my control, and these are the responses which are likely to be affected by this. If one independent is there which is causing change in one response, second is also causing the same response, then obviously both the independent variables should be operated simultaneously so that you would be able to know the response, joint effect of the independent variables. Say for example, compression, force of compression and the concentration of the binder. They are moving in the same direction, affecting the hardness, right? So there can be so many such independent variables affecting the same response. And other way around, that one independent variable but several responses simultaneously affect. So let us come to the techniques, tools. What are the different techniques? What are the different tools available to you? So one is the theoretical approach, another is the empirical approach. Theoretical approach means what? The proportion calculation. One person required 2 grams, so 10% would require 20 grams. This is a theoretical approach. It doesn't require any sort of the experiment. It's simple mathematics, right? It's a simple mathematics. It is the theoretical approach. Simple calculation for 1 liter, 1 gram, so 100 liter, 100 gram. This experiment doesn't require any sort of the experiment. So that is known as a theoretical approach. This theoretical approach is useful for some dilution, not for the formulation. These are the established equations available. Y is equal to mx plus c. You get a straight line. If it is giving a straight line up to some concentration, you can further presume that it will give the straight line further also. So different permutation and combination of the y is equal to mx plus c are there, isn't it? You have learned it in your physical pharmaceutics, physical pharmacy. The very first chapter, pillars of mathematics, are given in the book of A. N. Martin. So These are the established equations. So these equations can help you to go away from the experiment. You can directly report, yes, it will be done. Then there are some empirical approach. Empirical approach means the equations are to be established. We have to work out the equations. So don't get scared. I know that pharmacy people are not essentially the mathematicians. There are softwares available. The IT people and the engineers have worked out a very good softwares for the optimization of the pharmaceuticals. So by giving the proper input of various parameters, you would be able to get the ready equations and you have to apply it. Applying the equation is very simple thing that doesn't require the in-depth knowledge of the mathematics. So generate the equation. It means in nutshell, we have got the two approaches. One is with experiment, another without experiment, right? After conducting the experiment, you have to get some mathematical equation so that every now and then you should not require the experimentation. That equation should suffice, right, for the scale up. Okay. Another combination can be optimization along with the experimentation, then optimization after experimentation. There are some techniques where that we'll see in the next session that you can get the data and optimization simultaneously. In another case, you have to complete the experiment, get the data and play with that data and get some interpreted equation interpretation in the form of the graph or the plots. These are the permutations along with the experimentation, right? So there are some theories which are helping us to develop the various approaches. Then we can develop various mathematical models, statistical models, and these are the established techniques which are known under these titles: mathematical and classic approach, that is using the calculus. Then statistical approach, that is evolutionary approach, simplex model, Lagrangian method, search method, that is with the help of computer. And these are the basic theories, Deming and the Davis theory. These things I think we would have to conduct in the next session, because your optimum time of grasping must have been over, because the subject is not a new. It is the application of the knowledge that you have gathered, not from the pharmacy, but from your school time also. You are trying to apply the knowledge and trying to express it into the numbers. That is what Lord Kelvin has said. When you can measure and express it in number, you know something. Otherwise, it is just beginning of the knowledge. Just beginning of the knowledge. And my friends, my dear student, here I must tell you one very important fact. Experiment has no substitute. You cannot prepare any formulation on paper. So optimization is not a substitute for experimentation. Further, as you acquire more and more experience, your wisdom of optimization will elevate. An optimization made by a fresh graduate, an optimization made by an experienced chemist will be slightly different. So nothing can substitute the experimentation, nothing can substitute the experience. More the experience, more will be the data for the interpretation, understanding, and applying, isn't it? So optimization is a tool, it's not a substitute for the laboratory experiments. So I thank you for having a patient hearing and listening and giving a proper attention. So hoping for the next session soon. Thank you. Any questions, please?
Hello.
Yeah, Ashlesha, I can hear you.
It's a very good presentation. I would like to ask you one question, sir. As you
Yeah.
are saying, there are two types of the method, full
Hmm.
factorial design and fractional.
Hmm.
So if the number of batches are more
Hmm.
and the factors are more, the more number of the levels, which
Hmm.
factorial design will be preferable, sir? Full or fractional?
Obviously full,
But that will increase the number of batches or the experiments that we have to perform.
but later on the number of batches will reduce because the optimization parameters will help you to decrease the number of batches.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
I think more of the things will be clear in the another two sessions. Two more sessions will be required. This was mostly the preparing the foundation for the development of the subject, which is a little dry. I have been trying to generate an interest in this. In the next two sessions, we'll take some simple and important cases and some theories, and that will build the basic foundation to make you as a good and better product development authority. That's the need of this hour. And wherever and whenever you have any product and process, there is optimization. Whether it is automobile, whether it is a road, whether it is anything and everything that you see in the modern era is having a optimization, and it is responsible for the quality. So we cannot escape the optimization concept. Thank you.